Welcome to the Angels Win podcast with former Angels broadcaster Victor Rojas, featuring Jeff Stoddart and Chuck Richter. And now it's time to talk about some baseball. Victor, take it away.
Got to make sure that I'm on my spot here on my cue and make sure I'm centered. It is the Angels Win podcast, episode number 29, baby. It's my favorite episode of all time because 29 is my favorite number. And that's what I used to wear back in the day, even as a rookie in Mesa, Arizona, in my first season of rookie ball with the Angels. They hadn't retired Rod Cruz number 29, and I got a chance to wear it then. And it's nice to see that my son is wearing it as well in college. So we welcome you to the Angels Win podcast. I'm Victor Rojas, along with Chuck Richter. Jeff is not with us this week. He is, I think he's licking his wounds because Chiefs Kingdom struck yet again this week. And just because he's a Bronco fan. But no, I'm kidding. He's just unable. Scheduling-wise, didn't work out. And we were thinking about doing it on Saturday. Chuck and I said, let's just get it going because my schedule is kind of a little fuzzy on Saturday as well. And so here we are. You get stuck with Chuck and myself. And Chuck, for me, it's been a fantastic week so far. How has your February been treating you?
It's been going good. It's been cold here in Tennessee, but this past week has been in the 60s, mid-60s, and sunny. And
nice.
I'll take that, man. Coming from the 20s and 30s the couple weeks before, it's a nice prelude to the spring training in Arizona that's coming up here pretty soon for me. A couple weeks here.
That's for sure. I was up there in the Knoxville area because my son goes to Johnson University, playing for good old Dave Serrano, who was longtime Cal State Fullerton coach. But Dave is now the head coach there at Johnson U, and they're off to a good start. So I was up there for their opener, and that was my birthday weekend of February 3rd. And the weather actually that Friday and Saturday was amazing. It was about 60 degrees, sunny, and they were worried about not being able to play because of all the rain that you guys had gotten up there end of January into early February. And I had a great time. Obviously, it's still not green. It's still brown there. And here in Southwest Florida, I think it was 77 degrees today. I went out for a nice walk in shorts, and I got a little color. And it's nice that I get some warmth down here. My joints certainly appreciate it now at 56 years of age that I don't have to deal with the cold.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope I can get a little color too before Arizona. I hate being that white guy that stands out in the crowd.
Oh my God, my legs are ghostly right now, and I feel bad because people have to wear eye black if they see me in shorts because the glare is just unbelievable. But we're glad to be back and talking some baseball. Obviously, we've done just a couple of shows this off season, and as we all know, that the Angels obviously just kicked off spring training camp. First full squad workouts, not for a couple of days, but it's nice to see pitchers and catchers reporting. Nowadays, guys start to get to camp in January. As soon as New Year's is over with, you see guys. As a matter of fact, we came back from Kim and I were flying back from, where were we? I forgot where we were at. In Texas, maybe. And it was early January, first week of January, and there was a kid with his twins bag already at the airport, having just landed and been on our flight. And so that stuff starts to happen. Unlike before, you go back 15, 20 years ago, everyone looked forward to whatever the date was for their team reporting or pitchers and catchers reporting date. Now it's kind of like this slow drip from January into, yesterday, Valentine's Day, everybody started reporting as far as pitchers and catchers. And then you get position players that are already there or already have been there.
Yeah.
And it's great to see, especially after the Super Bowl. Everyone knows once that game is over that, baseball season begins and the like. And, hope springs eternal for every team. Everybody's got their high expectations coming off the offseason, whether it was good, bad, or indifferent. And I think the Angels are kind of like in that mode as well. It's like of trying to figure out identity-wise who they are, what it's going to look like under Ron Washington, new coaching staff, and against a pretty decent and pretty stacked division. But I think everyone still has that glimmer of hope and that gleam in their eye because on opening day, everybody is 0-0, and nobody's going to go 162-0. And
Right.
anything is possible over a 6-month marathon.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. And I think that, I mean, we talked about this on many podcasts ago about how I don't think anybody expected the Texas Rangers to have the kind of run that they did last year and make it to the World Series. And you could say the same thing for the Arizona Diamondbacks, for both of those teams going into the season last year. I'm sure they thought,
I know you're being glass half full, and I don't want to burst your bubble or anything like that. But that being said, the Diamondbacks,
you did pick the Diamondbacks. I remember.
I said I should have taken the Diamondbacks as a sleeper pick, as a World Series hopeful.
Right.
That's what I said back a year ago. But that being said, I said that because they had been building up their minor league system. They did have some young players coming up. You saw it happening. The Rangers, kind of the same thing. They saw it 2 years ago. They signed their middle infield. They spent some money. Their minor leagues. So while nobody expected either team to get to the World Series, you're not overly surprised because they are two organizations that have been well run, and they've got a player development system, and they've got guys that have come up and they've been able to plug in with free agent signings. So I just wanted to make sure that we're all talking, apples to apples, and not mixing anything. And that's not to burst anybody's bubble, but I'm just saying those two teams were pretty good going into last season.
I think you could include the Baltimore Orioles in that group that you just mentioned too.
For sure. Houston, Seattle, to me, is a crapshoot. I mean, Seattle is, gosh, they're on year 17 of their rebuild, or their reimagining, according to Jerry DiPoto, but whatever. So Houston is what they are. Texas is legit. The Yankees seem to have rebuilt a little bit. Toronto, I don't know. That's a little funky. Boston's kind of Tampa Bay, you never know, because they always seem to be pretty good. Baltimore's a really good team, really young, energetic team. And then the Central Division, it's like, who cares? Everybody, everybody's got a chance in the Central Division because nobody wants to take hold because they're small market teams. Well, aside from Chicago, and they all spend like small market teams, and so we'll see how that all plays out.
Yeah, I think I mentioned the Angels with that group, and they're nowhere near the Diamondbacks, player development and farm system, and the Orioles, and the Rangers for that matter. But they got some good young players in Ohapi and Neto and Shanuel and Silseth. You can probably add Adele and Modiak to that list as well, and then you got Joyce and Bachman. So there's some hope about the Angels maybe not going in the direction of signing high-priced free agents this season, to maybe take it back a notch and look into yesteryear when they wanted to develop their own guys and see what they got. Right. And how do you feel, Victor, about Ohtani not being in the clubhouse and being a center of attention all the time? Do you think that obviously they're going to miss his bat, they're going to miss his arm? He wasn't going to pitch this season anyway, but they're going to miss his arm. Do you think, that's a big enough, giant, massive hole of a void that just cannot be overlooked? Or is it like we got a youth movement here and we got Ron Washington at the helm, that maybe there's a different kind of energy in camp this spring, and they build off that going into the season?
I think it's a combination of both, to be perfectly honest with you. I think there's no doubt it's a whole. I mean, it's Shohei Ohtani. I mean, he's an extremely talented baseball player, both on the mound as well as offensively. And I think, it's difficult to replace that. I think overall, we've talked about this ad nauseum, especially towards, in September, when things really, the wheels fell off in August, but as you rolled into September and trying to figure out what you're going to do and the plan going forward, assuming Shohei wasn't going to sign, which I think was pretty evident, I guess, the only people that weren't aware of the fact Shohei might sign somewhere else are the people that actually made the decision to keep him, the brain trust, and which was obviously a huge faux pas, but we'll get into that a little bit later.
Yeah.
Uh, I think that, we talked about the offseason plan for the Angels and what we thought they should go do after they hired their manager. They absolutely, in my opinion, hired the right guy to lead this ball club. But I think the mindset was, if I believe I said, was, if you're not going to go out and get into that I'm not a big Blake Snell guy, but if you weren't going to go in that Jordan Montgomery level, then the best thing to do is try to shorten games as much as possible. And and you do that by staffing the bullpen with quality arms. I think they've done a pretty decent job of doing that.
They did. Yeah.
Bullpens are, I don't give much credence to bullpen signings in the offseason until guys actually do it. Other than closers that are established, Josh Hader
Right.
going to the Astros sucks for everybody in the West, because I think Hader's a pretty good pitcher.
Right.
But you just never know. Boy, their bullpen arms are so fickle, and if they're not used right, and things can get out of whack, and it just snowballs on you. Right, it's tough to play catch up. And I think a staff such as that of the Angels, where you've got young arms, where either they need to bounce back or have been inconsistent or trying to find their way back to where they were 2 years ago, you're rolling the dice and banking on a lot of guys having bounce back years, right?
Right.
You're banking on one guy, okay, you roll the dice and you take your chances. You're banking on a couple of guys having bounce back years, and or having Griffin Canning, who has been up and down
Right.
with injuries and inconsistency, trying to mirror what he did last year. But I think, that being said, the plan going forward is, or has been, unless something happens in the next several weeks, is build the bullpen out, try to shorten games as much as possible. Tell the starters, hey, listen, let's empty the tank for the 5 innings, keep us in the game. We'll shorten games up. We've got the bullpen, and I think that's a smart plan. If you're not going to go all in and go get guys, I like the core. I'd still, I like the young players, but you are hoping that those guys. Oh, Hoppy's coming back from injury, so you keep in mind that he had a great start, injured majority of the year, and so you're hoping he can rekindle what he did at the beginning of the year. Neto had some little nagging things. I like his upside. Shanuel, out of the gate, what kind of a hitter is he going to be? His eye and pitch recognition seems to be elite already. How does that translate now into a full spring training, a full season, 6 months of it? And does he become a more of a gap to gap Mark Grace type hitter, as opposed to kind of a wet noodle singles kind of guy,
Yeah.
which I can live with if he plays Gold Glove defense at first base. And then you got to hope for Rendon. So there's a lot of question marks going into 24. There's no doubt, but I don't think any of us have said anything about like, oh man, this the young core. I don't know. No, I think we're all
Yeah.
excited about those young players. I think there's no doubt about it. Do you have high expectations for this team to go deep into playoffs? No. At the start of the season, no. But like I said, anything can happen through the
Yeah.
course of a season, especially with the right guy at the helm, and Ron
Right.
Washington.
And I think that's what, back to your earlier comment about hope springs eternal. Everybody starts 0-0. And you just never know with Ron Washington and the young, talented group that the Angels have, and some established veterans on the team. If they can get some good health, and again, it's a lot of ifs here. If Trout can stay on the field, if Rendon can stay on the field and be productive, and you got guys that have done it in Drury, I think that there's a chance for them to be really competitive and fun to watch. It just brings me back to the days of, back into the 90s, which I'm sure you remember, when they started bringing up Salmon and Garrett Anderson and Percival and Damon Easley, and, they made the trade for JT Snow. And there was a lot of excitement around the Angels during those times. And to me, that's kind of where my enthusiasm is with this team right now.
Yeah.
New direction, new men at the helm, entirely new coaching staff. We don't have the big guy, in the lineup and in the rotation anymore, but we also don't have a 6-man rotation, right? And we don't have the media following this guy everywhere. And I don't know. There's some hope. I know there's a lot of fans that are upset, and I know we'll talk about it, about Arte Moreno's interview yesterday, where he says he's not going to sell the team, and and he's trying to lower the budget. Where a lot of fans kind of thought, well, he had all this money for Ohtani, he's going to give to Ohtani. We don't know what that number looks like.
Allegedly.
But why not use that money that he's going to spend on Ohtani and get a Blake Snell and a Cody Bellinger?
Yeah, well, I mean, allegedly, right? Because if you had the money to spend, why didn't you spend it? At the end of the day, if you wanted to keep them, why did you spend it?
Right.
I understand to a certain degree not wanting to spend for the sake of spending, but I think there are guys out there that I would make this team significantly better if they had gone out and picked them up.
Right.
Look, you're still the third best team in the West at the very least. You actually, technically speaking, you're the fourth best team in the
Right.
West, because Seattle, right?
Yeah.
And so even if you had gone and spent some money, are you overtaking the Rangers? No. Are you overtaking the Astros? No. Do you give yourself a better chance? Yeah, I think so. But I think when you look at it, the way the moves have played out, look, if the team poo-poos the bed through the course of the season, you got a lot of pieces to move out of the bullpen that will net you some players come the trade deadline. And I think that's how you kind of have to look at it.
Yeah.
Because you still have to build a farm system. What happens if Shanuel goes down? What happens if Neto goes down?
Yeah.
What happened if Ohapi goes down?
Ew.
So there's no real, and I think that's where the worry is everyone has to, you've got to play at a certain level and everybody's got to stay healthy. So it's like the perfect storm. And so, yeah, I think we're all positive and trying to trend that way and keep a positive spin on things, because there is some excitement about some of these players because they're fun to watch. There's no doubt about it. The Joe Adell thing, we'll see. Is Taylor Ward going to be healthy? Is he going to bounce back? And I think somewhere today there was someone talking about how Taylor Ward might be underrated. I'm like, have you been living under a rock? I mean, obviously, what he did 2 years ago. I mean, it's just like
it was brief. It was brief. He went on a hot. He was hot for 2 months to start the season. You're right.
Correct. Then he made the All-Star team. Correct, if I'm not mistaken, a couple of years ago. Right. He was injured.
Did he make the All-Star team?
Or he was having an All-Star caliber year before he
went
got hurt.
down. Yeah, I don't think he made it. I don't think he made it though.
But he's a guy that I like and is very intriguing. But to say that he's underrated, I don't know that he's underrated. He's just kind of he's an underdog because he's a guy that you root for. A guy that was drafted out of he was Fresno State. He was a first round pick out of Fresno State as a catcher.
Yeah.
And he was the second, it was back-to-back catchers, right? Theis was taken out of Virginia the 1 year, and then Ward was the following season, if memory serves. I'm getting older, so I don't really remember. But yeah, I think he's an interesting guy. And if he can find it again, would be a huge boost. But again, there's a lot of ifs. At the end of the day, in 2024, there's a lot of ifs. If Mike Trout is healthy, if Anthony Rendon actually gets on the field and can play, if Taylor Ward gets back, if Joe Adell finally shows up and shows the promise from 5 years ago in the minor leagues, if Patrick Sandoval gets back to a couple of years ago, if Reed Detmers is able to re-find it, there's a lot of ifs. It's an iffy proposition to be an Angels fan. But that being said, even if they are healthy and they play to their level, then you're like, okay, I'll take my chances, see what happens, and we'll roll the dice. But yeah, you're right. There is a lot of hope for this team. I think there's some excitement. I don't know that it's quite like the GA Salmon kind of, that influx.
Right. Yeah, I mean,
because those guys immediately, then K-Rod, then Lackey, then it's just like this constant pipeline, if you will, of guys that came up and were able to contribute right away.
Well, I didn't want to compare. I didn't want to compare it to the Dallas McPherson, Brandon Wood, Jeff Mathis era.
Understood.
Casey Kochman.
Casey Kochman. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, those are different. Yeah, it's a different level.
Right.
A lot of expectations from both of those guys. All three of those guys. But there was a nice run, with Figgins and Astouris and
oh yeah.
Ibar was fun to watch. Yeah, I
loved Ibar,
and I think that's what we're all hoping for. Is like that's all you're really hoping for. Is if you're not going to be, or you can't be competitive, or you're not. I hate the word or the term outclassed, but if you are in the third or fourth best team in the division, what you're hoping for is hope. Like the guys that are on the field now are fun to watch, give you an opportunity to win every single day. And then, oh, by the way, I can't wait to watch X player when they get to the big leagues or as they continue to go up the ladder in the minor leagues. Which we started this conversation with the Diamondbacks and the Rangers, which is what those two organizations have been able to do. They go, the Rangers are all excited about White Langford, the kid out of Florida, the outfielder out of Florida, who was at Double-A and all of a sudden at Triple-A last year. Is like, all right, here comes another guy.
Evan Carter.
Kumar Rocker, Jack Leiter. There's a bunch of guys that you're looking to like, oh, okay, so if we get a hiccup here, will they give these guys an opportunity? The Angels aren't quite there. They just don't have the system, the farm system to do that. Who's to blame for that? I don't know. It takes a while to build a farm system. And I think what Perry has done has kind of flipped it on its head and kind of gone reverse psychology on everybody and said, well, if I don't have a farm system to pick from, let me go get the best college players at the Division I level, which is essentially a lower level of minor league baseball, especially when you're talking about the ACC, SEC, the Big 12. That's quality baseball. And so when you go get Ben Joyce, Zach Neto, you're expecting those guys to hopefully come in. And then you get a guy out of FAU in Shanuel, who just looks like a pure hitter. Yeah. He's like, all right, I need guys now. I can't wait a year, 2 years. I don't have the luxury of waiting a year or 2 years, especially if you're Perry, you're in the walk year of your contract, you've got to see some sort of promise for this organization one way or the other, whether it's through the farm system or through the major league team, to kind of keep moving forward. But as we all know, from the way decisions are made, you just never know how things are going to flow. Maybe I think Perry should continue on. There's no doubt. Why shouldn't he? He's been kind of hamstrung. He's kind of playing the cards that are dealt to him, and anybody in that role is kind of in that same situation, unless you're willing to stand up and say, "Hey, listen," which you kind of should. If you're in the last leg and you're like, "I got nothing to lose. If I'm going to go out, I'm going to go out on my own terms, right?" Because I know that if I hit the open market, and I'm talking as if I'm Perry, if I hit the open market, people are going to realize, wow, you were hamstrung by this, so we still think you're a quality evaluator and GM candidate. Perry's not going to have a hard time finding a job. Let's just put it that way. You know what I mean? I think he's a quality individual. I think he's trying to do right by the organization and the community. But as we all know, that's not 100% his decision. Hasn't been the GM's sole decision for some time. Maybe going back to Bill Stoneman.
Yeah,
Maybe.
the best GM in Angels
Maybe.
history. Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
I'm curious. But that's that. So spring training's going. Uh, I know that Angels Win is having a little soiree in March, and
yeah.
for the folks that are obviously watching and listening, I would imagine you follow a little bit of the Angels Win podcast and social media. But Chuck, just in case you haven't been following, what's going on in March with Angels Win?
Yeah, so a good sized group of us from the website and some friends off Twitter are going to join us. And we actually rented out a section of the Four Peaks Brewery there in Tempe on 8th Street. And so Tim Mead's going to get us a special guest from the Angels to join us. Kind of the
Nice.
old school days. Remember the Hail Marys when you and Terry Smith and Jose
Yeah.
Mota would come out and join us and kind of hang out at the old Hail Marys there. Kind of, it's going to be lower scale. We're counting on 50 to 60 people. Trent Rush is going to join us as well. Working on a couple other guys, but we're just going to hang out and really just kind of celebrate the 20th anniversary of the website
Nice.
going live. And and it's really good to connect with, I've connected with so many fans off the website over the past 20 years and off social media. And it's going to be great to meet some people for the first time and to see some friends that I haven't seen in many years as well. So I'm looking forward to it. That's going to be at Four Peaks Brewery at 5:00 local time on Saturday, March 9th, if you'd like to join us. But yeah, and just taking in the game on Friday. We'll be poolside all day on Saturday.
Where are
and
you
then
staying, big guy?
yeah, and then taking in the game on Sunday. Just a short little trip. I fly in on Thursday and head out on Sunday night, but looking forward to it.
Nice. I might have to see if I can get out there. The
I hope
schedule
you can.
works.
It'd be great.
I haven't been out there in a hot minute. It's been a while.
Yeah, I'm bummed that Jeff can't make it. But yeah, we got a lot of folks that have been on the website for many, many years that'll be there. It should be fun.
Nice.
Yeah. Thanks for
All
the
right, bud.
plug.
Yeah, man. Of course, it's your show. Your name's on it.
Let me ask you,
Go ahead.
Victor. What are your thoughts on Arte Moreno's decision not to sell the team and to pull the budget back? And one of the quotes that I got was that he's not willing to spend. His thought going into the offseason was that he wanted to lower payroll. He's not going to spend money just to show that they're going to spend money unless, I think this is the part that some people may miss, unless it's going to substantially change the team. Do you think who's out there right now, there's anybody that could substantially change the team from a fourth place, team to maybe leapfrog the Mariners into that third spot and maybe even slide into the second spot in the AL West?
I don't think that there is, and I think it's easy to say that now because it's mid-February. That question probably should have been posed at the beginning of the off season.
Right.
And if the statement were made then yeah, of course you could absolutely go out and spend money and get guys that you thought would make you better, whether it was from the bullpen side of things, from a rotation standpoint, from a depth perspective, from a position player mindset. So it kind of is what it is. I mean, there's a lot to unpack in what you asked because. Look, at the end of the day, owners own teams have the choice to run teams how they see fit. I mean, we've seen it.
Right.
We saw it for years in Baltimore with the Angelos family and how upsetting it was for Orioles fans. And they're now finally getting out of it. It hasn't been approved yet by the owners, but it seems like that's a done deal. The Nationals remain for sale, but that whole issue is convoluted because of the whole Masson deal that baseball structured between the Orioles and the Nationals, the television network Masson. And so there's a lot of legal hurdles that need to be, settled there before the Nationals deal becomes clean. The A's situation, obviously, they're going to Vegas. Maybe they're not going to Vegas. Maybe they're going back to Oakland. Who knows? Kind of a cluster there. And there's been some rumors that maybe the Diamondbacks might be, for sale at some point. Or there's been, I know there's a year ago there was people kicking the tires on the Diamondbacks. Because they would like a new ballpark. That's not going to happen anytime soon. At least I don't see it happening anytime soon. And then you've got the Angels situation, and it's look, it's an interesting situation to say the least. The when you talk about valuation and the high end of the market, if you are an owner to sell, would have been a year ago if you're Arte Moreno. Just based on the fact that Shohei was still on the roster. It seemed like there was a plan in place for land acquisition and a new ballpark and a ballpark village. So there seemed to be this grandiose vision and pathway to success for someone to come in and overpay and for Arte to say, okay, thank you so much. I'm riding off into the sunset. I've turned this into a juggernaut as far as a valuation, and I'm cashing out. He chose not to a little over a year ago. And I think the problem that persists and will continue to persist, this is nothing new. This is not earth-shattering. It's not breaking news. But you no longer have Shohei Ohtani as your marquee player, your marketable round-the-globe player to hang your hat on. You have a mayor who is under indictment for being investigated for activities related to land sale.
Mm-hmm.
You don't own the ballpark. You don't own the land in which the ballpark sits. Your ballpark is old and decrepit, even though it's a great place for families and fans to go and watch, but it needs a makeover. And while these teams continue to rise in valuations just because the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, I don't know that the team is worth $3 billion today. And I know for a fact, because I was there and I did it, offered Arte $3 billion and for him to keep 10% of it a year ago, and he chose not to do it. Now, I don't know how much of that had to do with the fallout or potential fallout of what happened with the city and the land and all that stuff. But if you're an owner or a potential owner, what is your motivation to buy the Angels right now? Right? Because with every passing day, the price of goods and the price to build and the price to buy the land just continues to rise every single day. It's much higher today than it was 365 days ago.
Right.
And it's only going to continue to rise. And now I have a player in Mike Trout, marquee player, Hall of Famer, who has kind of crescendoed and maybe starting that curve on the backside of the career, which happens to everybody. You no longer have Shohei. And on top of all that, the TV contract that's supposed to pay you over $100 million a year, who knows where that's going to go and what that's going to be, how that's going to be valued.
Yeah.
So it's like there's a number of questions. And so a year ago, you could sit there and go and you could justify, not me, but these guys that have, funny money, they could justify saying, okay, we're at $3 billion, Val. Okay, 2.7 cash and already keeps 10. Okay. We'll make it work. We'll do from a marketing perspective. Shohei, sign him long term and spin this a worldwide thing. And you try to create as many revenue streams as possible. You can see that. You can talk yourself into that. But how are you talking yourself into something like that now?
Yeah.
Because listen, the lease for the stadium that the Angels have is awesome. It is very team friendly. Very team friendly. Trust me. It is exceptional. But again, it is an old ballpark that needs to be replaced and or updated significantly. And so if you don't own the land, you don't own the ballpark, you got to deal with the city at some point. Um, and who knows what their appetite is, you know?
Right.
I'm sure the city would love to have full value for that land. I'm sure Disney would love to pay full value for that land, you know? So it's an interesting dilemma that I can see where Artie would say, I'm in it for the long haul. Yeah, there's not much of a choice right now,
Yeah.
unless a team somehow wins, and on top of that, you get some sort of landmark, streaming or TV rights deal that locks in your money that's coming in from that. It's because even naming rights doesn't move the needle. The patches on the uniforms don't move the needle. That's just another revenue stream. But it's not like this robust $100 million revenue stream like
Yeah.
the Bally's TV deal. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I think the thing that I don't understand, Victor, is a year ago he turned down 3 offers upwards to $2.4 billion, right? And the guy bought the
$3
team
billion.
for, huh?
$3 billion.
Okay,
He
3 billion.
turned down. I have the text to prove it. $3 billion valuation
Okay,
with him
why?
keeping 10%. $3 billion. The team is no longer for sale.
And he bought the team for $183.5 million like 2 decades ago. I mean, if he's in it for the money, you would think that he would just cash out.
Right.
So, I mean, is he just in this because he's still a fan and he wants to see his team win?
Maybe.
It's an enigma to me.
And that's what I don't understand is like you get some of these players that are talking about I think Trout the other day said that he kind of felt that maybe the Dodgers were the leader in the clubhouse for Shohei.
That was him, and I think it was Patrick Sandoval as well.
Like his sense was that.
Right.
Then who's the brain trust that decided to hold on to him and make a run? For what? For the last, 6 weeks
that
of the season?
That part blows me away.
If he's walking,
these players can know this, and
right. That's what I don't understand, and I think that's where I think we've talked about it before. I think that's where there's a disconnect somewhere of someone having to sit there and say, "Hey, what are we doing? What are you guys seriously? What are we doing?" Look, we're fans, and we just sit here back, and all we could do is kind of, Monday morning quarterback things. But I'm telling you, a year ago, there was an out, provided him an out. And even after the fact, even after the team had been pulled off the market and it wasn't taken. And so at that point I figured, okay, all in.
Yeah.
Because the only way you win, in my opinion, look, we all want to be liked, right? I mean, it's human nature. Everyone wants to be liked in some form. Doesn't mean accolades. It doesn't mean press or whatever. For some people it does, but you just want to be, hey, when they're gone, they're like, that was a good guy. I rooted for that guy. It's like, he did this for me, or he said this to me, and whatever the case may be, you kind of want that in life. I think it's just natural human nature. And so when I looked at it last year, like, you've got 2 awesome avenues to look like the hero, right? Sell the team to an owner that cares and is going to, ride off into the sunset and take this team to the next level. And you cashed out and you're the hero. Thank you, Artie. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Or you keep the team, you make the announcement, and the next day you announce you've extended Shohei Ohtani.
Exactly.
And you because now it's like, I kept the team. Oh, wait a second, we signed Ohtani. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, he's in. He's all in. Boom. And so that to me was like the easiest conversation to have.
Or beyond that, even, Victor.
Or the third, behind the third curtain is you don't sell the team, you don't re-sign Shohei Ohtani,
You trade him
and
at the
you just
deadline.
and well, yeah, I mean that's if a positive, right? You trade him at the deadline. And they chose not to do that and go all in with these ridiculous trades that everyone knew that. I mean, you were really, that's who you were hoping for, is to sign these guys and hope for the best. I don't know. I just, it's unfortunate because it's unfortunate because I still care for and like Artie, and I respect him just because of, from a personal perspective, right? That's just me. And I understand where fans come from, and I understand where the frustration, and I understand when you read some of the quotes in yesterday's article with Jeff Fletcher in the Orange County Register, where you sit there and go, maybe, maybe pull back a little bit. There's no need to say everything that's on your mind,
Right.
and I think that's where you get this, people are still frustrated, and now you're the heel. You're forever, unless something magical happens, you went from the guy that saved the Angels from Disney and lowered beer prices to, you're and I'm not saying it from my perspective. I'm just talking about from a national media perspective, people taking shots at you all the time. And it bothers me because when you care for somebody, you don't want something negative to happen. You're trying to protect them. But it's like, at the end of the day, it's like I've said before, it's like at some point, where's that bench coach for him to say, no, let's hold on. Let's tap the brakes. Let's do this. And I think that's where you need the checks and balances. I mean, and unfortunately that's why we're at where we're at and rolling the dice and, hey, move forward. That's why, to me, it's like, I told you guys, he's not selling. He's not selling that bullshit that came out a couple of weeks ago, the informed speculation on MLB Network. I mean, informed speculation. You know what informed speculation is? It's a thought. That's informed speculation. Someone had a thought that he was selling the team. Informed speculation. Think about that for a second, logically. It's like, that's the biggest bullshit comment of all time. It's such a throwaway BS line. But hey, that's why I just don't put a whole lot of stock into it. And I agree with what Ken Rosenthal apparently said today on a podcast somewhere, that we said 2 months ago. At some point, Trout's got to go, what are we doing? What's the plan? And maybe Mike has had that conversation. We don't know. But if you want to win, you're 32 years of age. I mean, do you see it happening in Southern California? And if not, I respect you 100%. If you don't see it happening, but you'd like to be a part of something like that, I have 100%. Go do you, man. You've given us everything imaginable. You've never mailed it in. You've injuries are injuries and shit happens, but he's been a class dude from day one. Like, you root for that guy. You want him batting second or third and being that guy and hitting the monster bombs and jumping on the wall in center field and robbing a home run. I mean, that's because that's your guy. That's 2-7, right? That's and so I would have no problems whatsoever if that's what he wanted to do. I would respect it, and maybe he gets to that point. I don't know.
Has it ever dawned on anybody in the media or these podcasters out there or the Ken Rosenthals that maybe he enjoys living in Southern California and loves playing for the team, the Angels, and that he wants to retire an Angel and be with one team his whole career? Why is it that they have to assume that he's unhappy and that he, needs to be on another team? There's no guarantee, even if he went to another team, that he'd get to the World Series. The chances may be better, but there's no guarantees in baseball.
Yeah. No, I think everybody, I think from that perspective is always looking at it from this, storybook,
We
Hollywood
wasted
script.
Mike Trout, Shohei Ohtani.
He should be traded, blah, blah, blah. That's, but that's the media. It doesn't matter who, if it's Trout or anybody else. It's just the media. Um,
Right.
they're always going to want that because everything's behind a paywall, and everyone, they want to write stories and clickbait and get you
Yeah.
to buy shit. So I mean, that's just the standard process through it all. And hey, whatever. I don't care. It doesn't
Yeah.
affect me. But you can't get pissed if somebody calls you out on the BS. You can't get upset or
Yeah.
be bothered by it. You say stupid shit, you should get called out on it.
Yeah.
But I see where you're coming from with it, and I don't see a problem with it either. Maybe that's his calling. That's what he wants, and maybe he is happy.
Yeah.
Um, and I think we talked about it during the offseason. Would I have guessed the Dodgers for Shohei? Uh, on the outside, I could see it just because of the reach and the resources and what they're willing to do for him
Yeah.
uh, and the game of baseball. But a part of me also felt wholeheartedly that the idea of hiding in Orange County is very appealing, especially when you're constantly in front of a camera,
Right.
answering questions both for the English media or the American media and Japanese media. I can see where a little reprieve and just hide out and do your Orange County thing and go to Javier's and have some black mambas down there and and just chill. But he was overwhelmed. I mean, I get it. I get it. What he signed was just an unbelievable contract, and good for him. No
Yeah.
harm, no
I
foul.
I wonder if that limelight in the WBC, at the beginning of the season, kind of changed his view of just kind of being in a corner, in quiet Orange County, not being in the limelight, to like enjoying the limelight. Like, wow, I didn't think I'd like this, but
Yeah,
I'm enjoying it.
it's
And
very
so he
possible.
knew that, yeah, that
And you
LA
know
would be
what?
the place.
Through the 6 years as an Angel, it ramped up for him. It ramped up for him, so that it was this gradual,
Right.
escalation up to this international superstar. And I could see where, because it was more of a slow drip process for him, where he felt comfortable enough to go, all right, I can accept this. I can accept the Hollywood lifestyle, and being in the limelight and all that stuff and everything that comes
Right.
with it, as opposed to coming from Japan and immediately being thrust into it. You
Yeah.
know, so like I said, I can understand it. It stinks. It's weird to see him in the blue. It's weirder to see Ipe in the blue, but he's such a good guy, and wish him nothing but the best. So, but yeah, look, at the
Yeah.
end of the day, spring training is ongoing. The Angels are rolling, and it's good to get back behind the microphone and talk Angels baseball. And uh, it's
Yeah.
funny. It's that time of year. I mentioned my son at the beginning of the show playing college baseball, and then Division I baseball kicks off this week. I called some games last year for ESPN. I had a chance to do the Big 12 and had the Stillwater Regional. And I'm looking forward to, again, calling some games on ESPN. I think my first game is with Gabby Sanchez at Miami. Miami versus, oh, man, this is bad. Oh, Florida. The Gators against the
Oh,
Hurricanes.
wow.
Yeah, pretty good matchup. And then I got LSU and Mississippi State working with Ben McDonald as my second game. So I'm looking forward to kind of get into that, behind the mic and calling some games again. And it's going to be fun. But I love this time of year. And hopefully I can make it out to Arizona and have a
I
beer
hope
with
you
you
can.
guys. Yeah, it'd be
Ben
fun.
McDonald, wasn't he the number one overall pick for the
Yeah.
Orioles?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
is, he was out of LSU and great, great college pitcher and just a great dude, great all around dude. So I'm looking forward to working
Nice.
with him. So,
Any closing thoughts on Artie before I would take a few questions from the mailbag?
no, I mean, at the end of the day, it is his team. He can do whatever he wants with it and can say whatever he wants. And, um, you know,
He can deny interviews from anybody who wants to, apparently.
well, that's a valid point. It's totally your call. So,
Yeah.
At
Yeah.
this point, I don't think he cares, and he's just, I don't think he cares about, the negative stuff. So he's just going to keep rolling with. He's being him. He's doing him. So at
Yeah.
least all I could do is I could say, if just like you doing you, me doing me. Hey man, if that's who you are, then God bless you.
Yeah.
I don't judge. So what do you got?
Uh, let me let me take a few questions here. We got let's see, Joshua Carr from Norwalk,
Mm-hmm.
California. Can we in the Angels sneak into the playoffs with the veterans we have, or what he says, veterans signing? Maybe he's thinking if they sign somebody else and a healthy Trout and Rendon.
Anything is possible. I mean, I'd like to see a full season of both Trout and Rendon being healthy on the offensive side. They're going to need it,
Yeah.
obviously, especially with the young kids you got in the lineup, because there's going to be struggles with that. Or at
Yeah.
least you expect there to be struggles with young players, as typical. But yeah, I mean, anything is possible. I think we talked about that earlier on the podcast. There's no reason why you wouldn't think that they could get in there. I just think they're up against the wall a little bit. Um, I know one thing is that Ron Washington is going to get the max effort out of everybody, no
Yeah.
matter what, from day one.
Yeah. Let's see. We got Alex from Sacramento, California. What is the one thing Artie can do right now to try winning back the fans? That's a loaded
Um,
question.
that's a really good question.
It is a good
To
question.
win back the fans,
Yeah.
that's you're making the assumption that all fans are against Artie. I think there is, we live in a vacuum because of social media, so you think that that's what the consensus is across the
Right.
board.
Yeah.
And I don't know that to be the case. Um, so I don't know. I think, look, I've always believed that transparency is the best way to go about it, and just being honest. I think just like when you screw up, I think the best way to get out of it is just say, mea culpa, and just kind of, look, I own it. I screwed up. I did this, and
Right.
and so I think that's, and maybe the interview was part of that. It's like, hey, I'm not selling. I own the team. This is what I thought. This is what I wanted to do, and you know, this is what I did. But I
Well,
but I get what you're saying from an empathetic standpoint. You want to feel that as a fan, and I
right.
think that's I I don't know what the answer is to that, and so
Right. Let me take a stab at that real quick, Victor. One thing I think he can do, and not everybody, to your point, is on social media either, right?
mhm.
And so, what I think would be great is if he were to, the Angels would do something where he could just speak to a camera, or roll the tape, and he gets on there and says, "Hey guys, I know that." Really disappointed we couldn't keep Shohei Ohtani, but I'm going to do everything I can to make the experience at the ballpark the best it can be. It can be, and go over some things that he's doing to
Yeah,
accomplish that, and to put a winning team on the field. Um, and actually, you know, I I really think that if they were to get somebody like a JD Martinez to slide in, Victor, at DH. Um, and maybe add a Jordan Montgomery. I mean, Blake Snell, we talked about him. He's going to be overpriced. I do think that they need one guy that's been pretty damn good and was good last year, and get a guy like Jordan Montgomery if his price tag is not too high. And I think if you were to add two guys like that to the team, again, Cody Bellinger is going to be too high priced as well. But those two guys, I think, can put the Angels in a good spot. And but really just speak to the fans and say, "Hey, I see the disappointments. The last time we were in the playoffs was 2014. Um, does he have to do that? He's the owner of a team, no, but I think it could reach some fans, and maybe try winning back some of those fans.
yeah. I don't disagree with you. I mean,
Yeah,
in today's social media world, where look, the news cycle is maybe 24 hours, and then people are on to the next thing.
right.
It certainly couldn't hurt. Um, I don't look at yesterday's interview and say, if I'm in the Angels front office, go, oh, that was a win for us. That was you know what I mean? No, it's just more, you're just taking more arrows, right? And I think that's, to your point, I think I agree with you. It's finding the right person to have that conversation, because if it's any of the ones we think would be chosen to do it, it just seems like it's just,
Yeah.
it doesn't seem as honest as, and I love the people that would be doing it. It just comes off as maybe disingenuous or set up, as
Right.
opposed to
Yeah.
someone more, you know, I don't know. I don't know who
Maybe
that
it's
person would
maybe
be.
it's sit down with Tom Verducci or something.
Eh, Verducci was fed the stuff last year, so
That's
that's.
true.
Um, I'll think about it. I'll see if I can come up with a
Yeah,
good name.
that's a
How
tough.
about, what? Sit down with Jim Hill.
Oh, that would be good. Yeah.
And let Jim, shoot you straight and give you an opportunity. Because I think Jim's beloved in Southern California,
Oh yeah.
freaking stud.
Yeah.
Love that guy, and I think that'd be good. I think if it's again from the
Yeah.
heart, honest, straightforward. I think that's always the best policy.
Come out and just say, we've sucked, and a lot of this is on me. I
Yeah,
mean, right there, right?
yeah,
But then go into like things that he can do or that he's going to do to make
correct,
it better long term.
correct.
Last question. Brent from Murfreesboro, Tennessee, where my daughter lives.
Nice.
What would you consider to be a successful season for the Angels?
Everybody playing and nobody getting hurt. Seriously, I mean, it's just with all the injuries that they've had. A successful season for me would be watching the maturation process of the young players
Yeah.
continuing on an upward trend, and that you get the veteran guys that are healthy and able to contribute. That to me is a success. Anything else above and beyond that is icing on the cake. You just want to see the upward trajectory. You want to
Right.
see it not just at the major league level. You want to see it across the board as an organization. And I think that's the one thing that is, there's this disjointedness about the organization that continues to be its Achilles heel. And I don't know why, how, where, but you want to be at every stage: business, baseball, minor leagues, major leagues, international, all rowing in the same direction,
Yeah.
and all buying in. Because look, that's what culture is all about, right? Our society today is that everybody, everybody's business, everybody's brand is in a fishbowl. You could see everything, whereas before social media, you couldn't, right? Your brand was what you did on a marketing perspective. That's long gone, because now we see, feel, touch, hear, sense anything and everything. So you're in a fishbowl as a brand nowadays. And if you are not trending in the right direction, and or you have this disjointedness, everyone realizes that you're doing damage to the brand. And when you do damage to the brand, it's more than likely it's because you lack culture.
Wow.
And you don't have 100% buy-in from everybody that this is the plan. We're all going this way. And if you don't want to be a part of it, then get off the bus. And I
Yeah.
think at the end of the day, that's what you have to do. And I don't see it yet. And I think that was my pitch several years ago, and it's still my pitch for whomever's running the organization. Get everybody on the same page. Get everybody on the same page. Have everybody not only on the same page, but buying in that we're going to do everything possible to get this going in the right direction. And
Yeah.
until that happens, you're just kind of be spinning your wheels, and it's going to be patchwork, band-aids, and trying to figure it all out, and hope that you strike it rich and win. And
Yeah.
that's I just don't see that as a long-term solution for an organization, for a fan base. That's just my personal opinion on it.
Yeah. Well, that's all the questions we have. I mean,
Then we're
got
done.
Well, we answered a whole bunch of other ones already, so
Cool.
we're done. That's it.
Chuck, as always, a pleasure. We miss Jeff, of course.
Yeah.
Love that guy. And
Yeah.
but we hope that you enjoyed our 29th episode of the Angels Win podcast, and we'll continue to do these periodically. And then once the season starts, we'll more than likely go back to the weekly thing that we were doing before. So,
Yeah.
barring any breaking news, we'll probably talk to you at some point in March, and or maybe even just record something off our phones if I happen to be in Arizona.
There
Just
you
kind
go.
of a makeshift podcast on March 9th.
I hope you can make it down.
That'd be cool. Thanks for everybody for listening via the standard podcast channels and for watching the YouTube channel. I'm Victor Rojas for Chuck Richter. We thank you once again for listening and watching episode number 29 of the Angels Win podcast. Go Chiefs and Chiefs Kingdom. And much love to everybody in Angels land. Until next time, folks.
Thank you for listening to the Angels Win podcast with Victor Rojas, Chuck Richter, and Jeff Stoddart. Go Halos and drive home safely.
Say goodbye.